Okay, we'll move on to the next speaker right away. And now we will learn a bit more from a very interesting project from the city of Lund. And Karl will tell us things that has to do with the ecosystems, technology, and I guess sustainable cities as well. Yes, he's getting ready. Perfect. So warm welcome to
Thank you.
Karl. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Dear friends of societal innovation, I'm happy to be here, and we said we were going to co-create the future, so I've already started to hack it a little bit, Lars, because I think we are co-creating with the future. I believe, like the author William Gibson, that the future is already here, it's just unevenly distributed. So we certainly have more to give to the world from the places where the future is, like here in Sundsvall or where I live in the city of Lund in southern Sweden. So co-creation with the future. Future has come a long way on the path through history and on the path to making history, as somebody said here earlier. And on this journey, we have taken many steps through troubled times and eras. And still there are many of us who won't give up, believing in future and positively collaborate around the solutions. We will never give up. And I would like to try to navigate around this sort of little historic journey, and where we are sort of in a situation of change very dramatically right now, because it's not a linear sort of progress. Sometimes it comes a turn or a jump to something, and some people actually are not able to catch up with that move, and that's perhaps where we are in these days, with people having a sort of distrust in the democratic institutions. And so when I sort of consult around my international network of academic, political, and entrepreneurial expertise, I collect different models, and I very much see a pattern, similar pattern emerging from these models. So I sort of draw up this little frame of our entire nature, where basically there is something called time, and there are things going on at the micro level of a system, and with a lot of agents like human beings interacting. And then we can sort of monitor and perhaps be able to manage complexity on a macro level of a system, because we are going to need it. And that's why we invent technology. So a colleague of mine in the Bay Area, Fyodor Shinnikov from Institute of Evolutionary Leadership, he provided me with this Cinefin framework by Dave Snowden, not Edward Snowden, Dave Snowden. And it fits very nicely into my little theory here, because as it starts the evolution of system, I mean, if you are on a micro level of the system with a few set of factors or few agents, it's pretty obvious. It's tightly constrained, and if you have no degrees of freedom, you have something that you can really control. You can easily sense, categorize, and respond to a problem by best practice. There is a known solution to everything. So that's really not where innovation is taking place, right? And then we have some more complicated tasks sometimes. So we have more factors in the system. And we have governing constraints of that systems. The agents are tightly coupled. We can sense, analyze, and respond by good practice by bringing in expertise for this analysis and work. But then when we start to have a lot of factors in the systems, it becomes hard to monitor and to organize and manage. And that's where we talk about complexity. On the other hand, innovation needs complexity because it's a non-linear process. So this is really the zone where between the obvious and the chaotic stage innovation takes place. Because when it's chaotic, the system is lacking constraints. Everything is happening at the same time. You have to act. You cannot stand and think, when there's natural disaster or there are war in Syria, you have to run. Basically, act, sense, and respond. Every new sort of solution is a novel solution. It makes us tired and stressed if we are not getting killed. So it's not time really to sort of foster innovation in such a system, and not on the micro level in a sort of obvious controlled system. So this is the room for innovation here along the path of history. Now, we are becoming better and better at managing complexity, which is kind of interesting through our development of technology in the field of communication, which we use to be able to organize societies and organizations. And we sort of develop technology very often to transport something to somewhere. And we have done a lot through history, from morality to literacy. Then nothing much else happens until I sort of put AI here, because it's some form which will communicate with us all of a sudden. And then organization, well, domestication of plants and animals, leading to increase of populations, organization in cities, states of the realms, mercantilism, and scientific management, Weberian bureaucracy, the factory organization, now leading up to business agility and the adaptive enterprise, due to the demands of what is going on here. And then when it comes to transportation, I mean, engineering back then was very much about wood and steel, and the invention of the wheel. And then now it's the economy of bits and atoms. It's like engineering on a different scale here. Newton I emphasize a little bit because he sort of introduced this law of physics, which gave us some kind of mechanistic worldview all of a sudden, which very much the scientific management is about. The world is a clockwork. It's perfectly organized and predictable, which is not the case anymore, really. So, I mean, also we have the progress in information theory at Bell Labs, and leading up to the distributed network system, give us the internet and smart city solutions, perhaps, compared to the centralized or decentralized network systems for information or energy or other things. And it corresponds very well to this model I got from the European Commission here, moving from closed innovation systems here via open innovation system, and now it's about innovation in ecosystems and how can we manage that kind of complex level, of course, by the computing power here we have now for the first time in history. So there is some kind of new world economy arising here in what we describe as a value universe compared to the old world economy with value chain. And it's pipe business model where value is increased, and you have gatekeepers in every sort of stage here, if it's managerial layers or in a process. So it's a pipe, increasing the value from raw material to the end consumer, from producer to consumer. It's quite different now when everyone is a consumer instead, co-creating on a platform where the value being exchanged or being created is information and interactions. In a virtuous cycle with more and more participants, you get these network effects, where, for example, Airbnb during a couple of years can have a higher market value than Marriott hotels, which have been around for probably 100 years, you know, and Airbnb doesn't own their own assets, and there's a lot of things here. But when it comes to this, the value in the platform economy, the digital platform, information and transaction, the next thing now is very interesting. Well, we suddenly have some dinosaurs still walking on Earth, I believe, trying to bring us back to mercantilism and riding on some kind of movement here, which is not really on the train. We're trying to get them on here, you know. And what are we going to do about these guys? Well, I'm not worried, actually, even if they try to bring us, I mean, somebody here says, talking about some elite, might be on the top of the states of the realm, basically, and he thinks it's made of steel, and his literacy, I don't know, when I read the tweets, and he's kind of freewheeling here, trying to domesticize people like they are animals, not only by fence, by building a gigantic wall, you know, and a brutal primitive morality, and all sorts of things going on. But I'm not scared by this, because this human progress it's irreversible. They cannot win this. So let's move on with the future. So the blockchain technology now, there's a list here, but it basically means we will have an internet now which is artificially intelligent, and it will influence everything which is about payment solutions, transactions, and exchange of information, where we can distribute different blockchains of data and knowledge, where it's more secure transactions in the system. And then we will have robots and sensors on the digital level here, and distributed apps and composable systems like what you think about ERP or CRM systems, things that sort of reorient depending on what we need to do with our human creativity and collaboration. The whole sort of world of corporation is moving down on the digital domain all of a sudden. And the reason for being of an organization is that by the accumulation of intellectual capital, it lowered costs on three parts. The cost of search for talent, for example, it's more effective when you create an organization and sort of make that more effective. And the cost of getting them to work together in an effective way, you needed managers and have some fair play and policies at the workplace. You need some negotiators around the place. Now, if this all is moving down in the digital domain, so there is no need for big corporations. So where will work be in the future? Well, in Sweden, we have 1 million companies, and 0.1% of these 1 million companies are so-called large enterprises with over 250 employees. Well, on the other hand, they account for 50% of the Swedish labor market, and we have also 50% of the people is employed within public sector. But I think the public sector can very much be digitalized in a way. Think about, for example, the employment agency. And so where will this happy future of work be? I think very much in the long tail here, with democratic collaboration as other things. I mean, we say that in the coming 20 years, 50% of the jobs will disappear by digitalization. So, and is there really, when it comes to cities, we move into cities to actually get a job very much. And is there a reason for being when it comes to cities? Are they obsolete in the world of digitalization? I don't really think so, because I think we are attracted by each other, because there are certain elements in a human being when we talk about inspiration, as I said, or imagination, or love, as was the talk yesterday. Certain things that sort of attracts us to come together. So I try to study very much what is the next challenge, for example, for the city where I live, which is a little bit like a glass of water. I mean, we are in a very privileged part of the world, so we need to pour out our world-class intellectual capital to other parts of the world. So that's why I started this Future Cities Innovation Lab, where I bring together, all of you are invited. It's on Facebook here, it's a Facebook group. You have the address there to participate in how can we sort of co-create and distribute societal innovation to places where the future is not already. Because I think we need to do that in order to save democracy. I have a little city model here because we sort of need a vision also. We've been talking about that too. A human-friendly society. Isn't that something we can at least try to work towards? And what is the role for public sector here? Well, on the hardware side, it's very important, I think, to bring the digital hardware into the domain of hygiene factors, like we have roads and other things in the collective domain. So open and neutral access to infrastructure. On the software side, is about digitalizing city, looking at them as platform economies and provide their offering on a digital platform, and with the purpose of democratizing learning, safety and health in the local environment and also to other parts of the world. And the private sector will move very much into the economy of culture with bits and atoms, of course. But the cultural dimension, I mean, that's the new role or reason for being for a city when traditional labor is moving into the digital domain. So how do you attract people? The new role is what I would define as culture here. And how do we create a human-friendly society with this? Well, one thing, I think the cities which in the coming years now, which will provide their city as a service. You know, you visit a city and you have your sort of online devices, and you are able to navigate, you feel safer, it's smoother, everything about transportation. Are you just a visitor or a citizen? Are you a startup looking for a startup house? Do they have bunk beds? How much does it cost? Is it some kind of smooth payment system? Are you an SME? Are you a large enterprise? Are you a student? Are you looking for funding, calls, or are you looking for entertainment, co-creation studios, maker spaces? Are you looking for financial data about the region? Are you an investor? Or are you looking for innovation hubs or problem solvers? Or do you have an idea about something, all of these things, I think, also is very much the role of the public sector to work with in order to attract what we call Generation Y and Z. And this is something that we work on in Lund now and would like also other cities to join, because we want to do it as an open source project in order to distribute smart city solutions to other parts where the future might not already be. So codingfuture.org is not up yet, but it will. So when it comes to Lund, there is a lot of city planning in Lund. So I will end my little presentation with a couple of slides now. I think we're really missing out on one thing, and that is the key stakeholder who will live in this future city. Why are they not involved? I mean, because they are the future. Why? For me, this is amazing. We are building a human-friendly society because we want our kids to have a better world, and they are not even invited in this co-creation, So this is also something I would like ideas. How can I engage them? I have my little son there. This is from a Minecraft project we did in his school, and we also did it in the city hall. This generation have completely different demands. I mean, look here, they will have 17 jobs in a lifetime, 15 homes, Do you have to own your furniture, home, everything? Can that be as a service? Stuff like that. Things are going to change. I don't think the city planners at the city planning department is really designing the new urban areas for these generations. We lack some sort of connection here to what we are doing it for, basically. And here, we are working together with One Reality, which you just saw on stage here. So we were down at MIPIM, the largest equity fair in the world. And this little kid here is now able to interact in a more interesting way with how can we bring her ideas into the future of the northern parts of Lund, where there's a huge city expansion project going on. And we are also, like here, having a Minecraft lawn party. There's a lot of guys here. The girls actually sit over here, but it was very light for my picture here. So that was actually about 50-50 girls and boys in this generation participating to co-create Lund, a prototyping Lund in Minecraft. And we have Lego, working with sensors, how to understand that, Arduino, other tools. It's fun, And we are setting up now, for example, in Lund, on several places, LoRa sensors to integrate with open Wi-Fi. And I mean, we cannot do it really, but we are creating a future street. So we don't ask for permission. We just do it right now, both the municipality and private entrepreneurs. Okay, we take this part of the street, we occupy it, we put up some sensors, we connect Lund University Department for Technology, students, kids, everywhere, as some kind of maker street, Sit at the cafe. How can we sort of start to develop this new idea without having to plan too much, Get your hands on the dirt, So we need a bit revolution as we come back to, So I was down in Lusaka, Zambia, together with my MBA class, our final project at Lund University, working with a Swedish company who tried to reduce deforestation by a very smart home cooking solution where you have a new type of stove fueled by pellets and driven by solar panels, where you can also charge your mobile phone, because this world is really making a leapfrog from what we spoke about, agriculture to telecom and digitalization. So, I see when my kid, when I come home now as a poor single dad, tired after a day's job, which never ends really, because I have such an interest in this. We're talking about nerds and stuff, probably that's why I'm single. Anyway, so I open the door, and he and my daughter sits there in a completely dark environment in my small little apartment next to the cathedral. And they are speaking very good English now. They are 11 and 12 years old. They are speaking with people connecting from Russia, Africa, Brazil, United States, Asia. How on earth will they start this obsolete kind of activities, you know, with jet fighters bombing cities in Syria. And so, I mean, they will think, are you Neanderthal, you know? Because it's their neighbors. Like we used to run around in our other quarter, you know, ringing the doorbell, is Caroline at home, you know? So they are now connecting with the whole world. So I'm at least optimistic about this future. And with that, I would like to thank you and welcome you also with the SoCap team and Nordic Impact Week to San Francisco. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Karl. I think we have time for one or two questions. And anyone have a question for Karl? Maybe a suggestion for next year when we have this conference, Lars. We should bring kids here.
Yeah,
like we contact the schools, so we actually will do this.
Yeah. I'm a big kid myself. So.
Yes. So we can co-create together with a bunch of great kids.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah, I know we are just having the same discussion here in Sundsvall about how can we involve actually the ones that are going to use the city.
The stakeholders of the future.
The stakeholders of the future, that's right. You have a question? Oh, use the mic. Yes. Here.
If you were here yesterday, you knew I have a lot of questions, more than answers. Thank you, Karl. That was incredible. And having met you, I knew you were amazing and brilliant, and now I really know. I have proof. Thank you.
Thanks.
So one of the challenges that we're seeing is how many millions of people are thinking like we are and thinking they're doing the project that we know we are doing.
That's what I wonder.
And then the question is then, since so many people, the question is, since so many of us are not inclined to find ways to work together, there's all these duplicate efforts, or that's not necessarily the issue because we need a diversity and a tapestry of, but the question is, how do we coordinate more effectively and weave a better tapestry in such a way that actually reduces the redundancies, you know, and makes more optimal solutions? You understand my question?
The second part, the first part, I would say I feel very alone, you know, being part of, not here. That's why I'm so happy whenever I get a chance to meet you guys. But, you know, when I'm back at my municipality, 9,000 employees, you know, and the city manager, she's not like me, but she's very interested. She understands it's important. So when I started this new project for City of Lund, it didn't take long before, you have to do this presentation for all the directors for different departments. So well, there was like 20 people, you know. One of them was sort of, you know, helping me a little bit. The other one, so do we need to work in a different way to learn something new? You know, people have a certain predictability because they can do others, work, life. You know, for me that goes together very much. And I think even more in younger generations. And sometimes I felt very lonely when I did my MBA, for example. And I can say this very openly because the whole class of 21 middle managers from Sony, IKEA, everywhere, you know. So they didn't take long, many courses before they said at some dinner table, you know, Karl, you're kind of on a different planet. Okay, it's not the first time I sort of hear that kind of comments, you know, get down from the cloud, you have to be more concrete, so on. But whenever I meet people like you, and I have these networks around me, there's obvious what we are talking about. I think on the bigger scale, we are not that many. So the future is here, but it's not evenly distributed. And the less distributed it is, the more fragile is human progress, democracy. And that's what I think we see a little bit.
I have a hypothesis, if you don't mind, I'll ask another question. That at least in every major city, there's at least a cluster of people that are thinking the same. Mm-hmm. For example, the tools that you're building, I need now in the
so we can find each other.
The 5 or 6 cities.
Yeah.
And then if those 5 or 6 cities or 12 cities, then the 25 or then the 75 or the
we mobilize a critical mass.
Yeah. So the question is not so much we know we're not alone.
Yeah.
And we know that we're not uninspiring. It's just so we have to show the demonstration of the possibilities. Right? So the question is really more for us.
Yeah.
If we can do it, then how can we do it?
And then I think that's the
question of the day.
that's why I show this idea of a maker street. You know, we don't ask for permission. There might be a red light. We'll say, no, there is some regulation. You can't also put up sensors and start co-creating stuff like that. You know, you have to go to the city planning department and so on. But it's not that dangerous. You know, we start a little bit by doing actually.
We're doing it.
Yeah,
so
to
we are doing
prototype.
it. So we are doing it. So then the proposal question is, then since I'm doing it and you're doing it, and then we're doing it, and then all of us, then let's just do it together,
and then we make an A/B test to the old world economy, the new world solutions. You know, how much did this cost to run? You know, for 48,000 students, a university in the traditional way, and I mean, it's a fantastic university. They have top-notch. Also, for example, my MBA.
I think every university says that.
But
actually.
it's pretty costly to run it in a traditional way, and you know, if you take that, I mean, that MBA program I went, it cost like 40,000 euro. You know, it's not as expensive as in the United States, but it's very good quality, but it runs for 18 months. What if you sort of, in a gaming environment like GTA, you know, start to walk around with friends in this kind of virtual environment, put up your little startup and learn every module about economy, organization, leadership together in that kind of tacit knowledge environment, you know, and have fun with people connected. And it only costs like 440 euros to buy that little, you know, subscription online, you know. I mean, why would you come to Lund and study at the university all of a sudden? Might we have a drop, you know, in a couple of years if we are not, you know, sensing these sort of changes now? And
we were talking about an AI university.
Yeah, and I call it gaming university. It's my initiative in Lund, so yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
The conversation will continue.
We'll continue. Thanks very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Karl. We will now take like 10 minutes break.